Did you know automated release notes can do a lot more than just creating release notes? It's all about manipulating your JQL appropriately and coming out with relevant results. For example, one common use case for ARN is generating trends, statistics based on different JQLs. For example, on my screen, you'll notice we have a specific trend page created in Confluence that is totally maintained by ARN. What it does is it essentially looks at number of support tickets received across different hosting of ARN app, cloud, data center, and server. In today's video, we are going to actually do a step-by-step demonstration of this feature. How can we go about creating a release versus issue type distribution page? Let's begin. First thing that we are supposed to do in here is create a new Confluence page, right? And in this Confluence page, we'll be utilizing the page properties report macro because that's the key to our entire conversation. What we are going to do is we'll name it appropriately. So maybe call it uh, release versus issue type distribution trend, right? Like I mentioned earlier, let's add the page properties report. Now, let's change a few things in here. Obviously, the page properties report that's created by default is coming from our last page, which is not needed. We need something else. So let's call this one dummy issue. Right, so I'm just going to name it randomly as dummy issue. We'll have to remember this label so that we can utilize it in the ARN's relevant configuration. Let's keep everything else as it is. Nothing needs to change. Let's click on save dummy hyphen issue. That's the label that we are looking at, right? Now let's publish this one and go to the automated release notes screen inside of a project. Here, let's first create a template. Now, obviously, since we are publishing this trend in a Confluence page, we are going to create a Confluence template that is specific to this use case. Let's change the template type from the drop down to Confluence and maybe call it release versus issue type distribution. Let's remove the ARN branding. Let's scroll down. No need for a logo. Let's just keep it extremely simple. We are going to remove everything that's there. Now let's add the page title as version name. We'll keep it simple. And maybe if we wanted to, we can, let's keep it to page title. We'll include page release date separately. So let's insert the page properties macro. Here you go. I've chosen the page properties macro. No need to add any property. Let's insert a table inside of this. So let's say this one is going to be what version name, right? We'll put up the variable version name. You can obviously use the macro here that says variables and choose the one that's relevant. I've just directly utilized the square brackets. Then also insert the release date. Here it should be release date. All right. Now let's insert another row because what we are trying to do here is indicate the issue type distribution across each one of these releases. So let's do it only for three issue types: stories, bugs, what else? Tasks? No problem. All right. Now we are going to insert the actual stats, right? So how do you do that? You click on this stats option in here. You say stories. You add the JQL and say project equal to project ID and fix version equal to version ID and issue type equal to story. Let's copy this JQL. We don't want this to be displayed as a link, so let's just keep it simple. Return total number. Now we are going to follow the exact same stats section, but with only a minor change. Here it will be issue type equal to bug instead of story. Click on insert, it should be inserted. Don't worry if the JQL sections, or rather the stats sections, look like broken. They are not. They behave just differently on different browsers. We are going to insert another of these stats sections, and this time around it will be for task. That's it, you are done. Click on insert, and you now have the page properties macro ready. Also, you don't want this to be displayed on the Confluence page, so let's just hide it by marking it as hidden. Click on insert. Then let's go in and do another thing. Let's insert another macro called Jira issues. Right now, insert the JQL. We'll change the JQL and say, instead of looking at a specific issue type, let's look at story, bug, and task. We can keep the maximum issues empty so that all the issues are retrieved. We don't need the due date. Maybe we would want to include status. We'll add that, right? So this is the Jira issues filter macro. Let's click on insert, and it should be now available. Let's scroll down and save the template. There you go. Done. We have now saved the template. Let's move on and create a new rule. I'll call this dummy hyphen issue so that I do recall the label that I'm supposed to use. Let's ignore this run rule as and keep it to creator of rule. No problem on that front. Let's keep the trigger manual and click on save. Now, insert the Confluence action from the left-hand navigation. What's the Confluence template that we are looking at? It was what? Release versus issue type distribution. So I've chosen that one. Confluence instance is already connected. We have created this in the space UR. You can get the space from the page URL. Let's go in, add the page, or rather space identifier. And you also want the parent page to be inserted in here. So we have created the default page, the page properties report, copy its page ID from Confluence URL and insert it in the parent page ID section. Here we are going to utilize the label that we talked about earlier, right? Now let's save this. All done. Now let's go back to the rules listing, right? And let's run this rule for a specific version. I'll just refresh the page to ensure that no children pages are available under this page. I'll also expand the left hand navigation of Confluence to confirm that there are no children pages under this one. While it loads, when you come back here, you have to choose a version, right? So eventually what this is going to do, this is going to create a table which shows number of items released of different issue types in each one of those versions, right? So every time a new version is released, a new row will be created in that table, a new child page will be created, and accordingly the data will be displayed. It will become more clear when I actually run the route. So no content was added from the left hand navigation as well. There is no children page. Let's now jump in and run this one for, let's say, uh, let's find something from September so that it looks like, okay, so let's pick up 3rd September first. Let's run it for 3rd of September. After this, we'll run it for maybe 7th of September, 15th of September, whatever release versions are available in this project. Let's go to the logs page, or rather the logs tab within ARN, click refresh, and wait until you see a confirmation of this rule's execution. We called the rule dummy issue. It should appear in the first column, the rule name. It takes a minute or two at times. So here you have dummy issue. The page is now created. You can immediately click on this link and it will take you to the Confluence page. But we don't want to do that. We want to refresh the landing page that we had created, and we hope to see a summarized view, or rather a tabular view of these different issue types that were present in that version, the 3rd of September release. So we'll wait for this page to load completely. It's taking some time to generate the report. I'll also remove, or rather move around my own video so that you can look at the left hand navigation. All right. So here you'll notice we have these many entries, or rather, we have one row, but it includes all of the relevant information. What was the release name? What was its release date? How many bugs? How many stories? How many tasks? Now, obviously, you can change the sequence. So let's do that and customize this a bit more. You have to modify the page properties report configuration. That's what we are going to do here. Also, we don't need all of the information, so we'll probably remove a bunch of columns and we'll only keep title, stories, bugs, and tasks. That should be more than sufficient for our discussion. Click on the options, see what are the, so it says columns to show, right? Let's keep it simple: stories, bugs, tasks. We would have included release date separately, but our naming convention is such that we name the release version by the release date. So we don't need this release date to be listed out separately as a column. Let's click on save and click on publish, right? Now let's do another thing. Let's run this rule for another version from September. The rule was called dummy issue. We'll look for a September version, which is 7th of September. Let's click on OK. Now this time around, we are going to run a couple of rules, or rather, we are going to run the rule a couple of times for different versions. So let's run it once again. Once we get a confirmation that it has run successfully for the current version. So the version was 7th of September. Oh, we ran it for 3rd of September 2020. That's okay. This is just an example. So you can run it for any version that you have in place. So for example, 7th September is created. Now let's go in and run it once again for 20 no 27 September 2021, right? Let's also refresh this page since it's going to take some time. Here we'll go back to the logs tab because we are going to need to refresh this a few times just to check the status of the rule execution. 7 September was created successfully. It should now appear after the page refreshes. But at the same time, we have also run the rule for 22nd September 2021 release. Or rather, it was 27th. So we are good on this front. Let's come in, let's refresh the page, or rather, the page is already refreshed, and let's hope it collects the information about 27th of September as well. So let's wait while the page loads. So this is just the page properties report, right? The actual release note page that's created from ARN can be navigated to when you click on these links in here, right? So you can easily create any kind of trends using ARN. Let's also look at the actual page that is published, which was essentially a Jira issue filter. So we have clicked on that page. It brings us to the 27th of September 2021 page that was created. Remember, within the template, we used the variable version name. And here you go. You see all of the items that were included as part of this release. So if you are conversant with JQL, you're going to have fun while creating n number of different reports, statistical trends using automated release notes for Jira. Hope that was helpful. Thank you.